Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our November 7th, 2023, 9 a.m. board briefing meeting. Let the record reflect that all 5 commissioners are present. Commissioner French is on Zoom. And we are just going to go ahead and get started. Our executive management team is here also. And then we will start with Ashley Cowan.
Hello, good morning, and thank you so much for letting me come and present to you today. I would like to first take a step back and just point out that when I come alone, it's because I want you to allow me to accept money from the state. When I bring a judge, it's because I need money from you. So just so we know the ground rules.
Wow, I love it.
I bring backup if I'm going to ask for something. So
Good to know.
yeah, just a little telltale sign. The first thing that I would like the board to know about, we have a contract. This is our 3rd year in a row. It is a state program called Safe Baby Court. And the grant is for $86,000 from the state. It pretty much pays for a community coordinator that is in my staff. And she goes out and builds relationships out in the community to assist people that are involved in a dependency, get hooked up with community the resources. The program is specific for people that have kids that are from 0 to 3 years old. There's a lot of research that getting that parental bond or getting the child to a home, permanency home is really good for the child's long-term well-being and well into adulthood. So again, this is our 3rd year. We are guaranteed 3 more years. The first year was just a kind of 1-year grant. Now it is 5 years. So each year I will be asking that the BOCC approve another year of this program to keep that community coordinator on my staff. Any questions? Commissioner Jordan.
How's it going with the participation on that particular docket?
We have expanded to 3 teams instead of just the 2 that we launched with. We would like to, moving into 2024, allow it to be in all of the teams. We believe that we have the capacity for it. It is like a lot of wraparound therapeutic processes. Some parents are reluctant just because there are more meetings that they potentially could miss. But we have seen really great success. People have gotten their kids back, or at least we've gotten the kiddos to a home for the long term. So we have seen some success. I haven't gotten it compiled to a way that I would feel like I could present to you as to how it's going. But just kind of in the short term, for these last 2 years, we've seen enough success that we think that it's a good use of this grant.
Which teams have baby court now?
Commissioner Swenomson, Commissioner Chavez, and we just added Commissioner Rugel. He's in the central zip code, so it was really important to get that zip code involved in this so that we were assisting all zip codes in Spokane County.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next one, so up on the 4th floor of the courthouse, there is a lounge that is just for female employees. It's a very interesting room with a couch and blankets and 2 restrooms. For many years, I've found it to be a very odd use of space. But again, I mean, I can't turn it into a courtroom. It's not that large. But there was a grant that was available statewide through AOC to apply for a lactation pod for anybody inside the courthouse to use. So I worked with Gil and I talked with Ashley in HR. They both agreed that that would be a fantastic use of that space. It would not just be for employees. We do have the lactation room in the basement of the public works, and that's just for employees. This would be for anybody that is here in our courthouse. The brand that I selected is Mamava, something, I can't say it, Mamava. And they have an app that people that need to find those pods can have on their phone. There's a way to reserve a time. I did talk to Steve Bartell about any risk concerns. The grant from the state, they did grant it to us. I am here to ask that we accept that grant. We have not taken that step without the board's approval. I think that it would be a great use of that space, and I think that it would help jurors, lawyers, anybody that's here in the courthouse that needs that pod. And the grant does pay for the entire cost of the pod, including it being installed and sent here. Really, all it needs is a plug-in, and Gil said that that room can have a plug-in. I'm sure it has one already. There will be some couches and stuff that we'll need to get rid of, but it seemed like a really good use of that space and a good way to improve what we can provide to people that are down here in the courthouse. Questions about the lactation pod?
So is it like a contained little pod room kind of thing?
Yep,
So
it has a little door.
So it can sit inside that space, but then the space is still available for other people. I
Yes,
mean, maybe not with a couch, but a chair or something.
exactly. The app comes with a code. Once you reserve the spot, you're given a code. Think about like a VRBO. And again, you know, my thought would be we would let jurors know and get the word out to lawyers. I'm a little unclear how we would get the word out to people that are here in the courthouse, and I would want us, I don't want somebody to camp out in my pod, so I'm not sure that putting signage out, displaying it is the best idea, but that would be for the, we could work out those logistics as it gets here.
How big is the pod compared to the space that you're putting it in? I mean, you mentioned getting rid of couches. When you eliminate seating, sometimes, can you just move the couches and also place the pod in, or I haven't seen this room where it's going,
I would
so.
love to show you at some point, it's very odd.
What,
but-
can you spell it to see if Ron can just pull it up on the internet?
Yeah, Mamava, MAMAVA, my apologies.
You'll see them at like airports, and they're larger, but obviously not too large to fit in the space then, huh?
Right, I wanna say that the room itself is 15 by 15, and the pod that I selected, which wasn't the giant pod, it was kind of the middle of the road pod, was like 8 feet by 10 feet, so it was
So it
still
will take up
it takes
most
up
of it.
a fair amount of space.
Okay.
I'm assuming if they have an app, then people just put in and like where locations are, they would
Yep.
know. I guess I just wanna make sure that for the grant, since it has to, people have to come through security for it, that that's not an issue.
It's not. Yeah, that's it. And the nice thing about utilizing this lounge for this use is there are 2 stalls and 2 sinks nearby, so while the pod itself does not have a sink, there is a private sink right there that somebody could use to clean the equipment. Original one is the one that would fit the best in the space.
Sounds like a neat idea.
It'll be on for you, the consent agenda, I believe, next week, 28th. Commissioner Jordan?
Did you say it'd be on the 4th floor?
Yes.
Okay.
Or for the court, there's really, I would love to have it in another location, but there's really, and I'm telling you, the room is very bizarre up there, so. I did talk with HR about a way to kind of roll that out, if there are employees that are used to utilizing that room, to really launch this in a, look at what we can provide to people, and employees could use it, anybody could use it, and it's a really great use of that space.
I think it'd be great for jurors,
Right now, we
'cause that could be a
have-
barrier to people.
Yeah, we have people, we have this tiny break room, break room, it's a closet up near my area that we let jurors use to pump, and we just put a sign on it, there's no sink or anything like that. It's not a great, it doesn't check all the boxes that you're supposed to have to provide for lactation.
You're getting a grant to pay for this one.
Yep.
But how much do they cost?
22,000. And there's no ongoing costs. I'm guessing at some point, maybe they need software updates, or I'm not sure.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you all. You guys have a good rest of the day.
Me too.
All right, Erin, you're up. You get to talk about the fair.
Thanks for warming it up for me. Fluffy stuff. Well, good morning. I think I saw most all of you at the fair at some point. Thank you. I hope you had a nice time. It's hard to believe that it has been almost 2 months since the last day of fair. Yes. And our team has been so busy. I mean, we shut the fair down and then we have to start cleaning it up so we can get back into our events the following weekend. And we have had events every weekend since then. So kudos to my team. They're fabulous. They're trained professionals. They know what they're doing. So, and luckily no one gets too crabby with each other, amazingly, with all the hours we put in. Ron, if we could skip to the third slide. So today I'm here to share with you some highlights from the fair. Our attendance came in at a little over 171,000. We had beautiful weather all 10 days. I'm gonna declare it might have been a little warm on that last Saturday in the 90s. I heard people were boating and things, so. Our food revenues were up over $56,000 this year. Last year was record-breaking for us. So to exceed that this year with a lower attendance was phenomenal. Our carnival company reported that they were down just under $100,000. But again, last year was the best year they had with their 20+ year run at our fair. So still a great year for them as well. And then our parking revenues were up, and some of that was attributed to our price increase to $10. But the nice thing is we did not get a lot of feedback on that. Some years, I will say, parking and paying, even at $5, we've had soft drinks thrown on our workers because they're frustrated that they have to pay for parking. So to have an increase and not have any pushback was really nice. Next slide, please. Senior Day on Monday was 9/11 this year, so we also had our Heroes Day. So we had a lot of guests that were able to get in for free under our 2 promotions. We also had a new sponsor this year for Senior Day. So if you're 55 or over, you got to the fair for free. We actually had traffic jams on Senior Day. So that was pretty exciting. And usually for a Monday being a slower day, the vendors loved the extra participation, and it was a really good vibe out there. So on Tuesday, we celebrated our 3rd Sensory Day, and we've been working with some great community partners, the Arc of Spokane, the Isaac Foundation, and Project ID, to really develop our Senior Day, our Sensory Day, into a special day that can be enjoyed by all. If you're usually overstimulated by lights and sound and crowds, it's just a really good opportunity to come to the fair that day. We did special programming throughout. We worked with our carnival company to have no sound or lights on until 5 o'clock. They actually opened early for us. So it gave families and participants an opportunity to enjoy the fair in a different way. So huge success. We'll plan on doing that again next year. Another area, our 2nd year of our cornhole area. We brought in a DJ this year. We had tournaments all 10 days. And we also find out from our patrons, they love the cornhole area because you can go in and play cornhole for free. So added value, you're at the fair, free activities. So looking at doing that again. And adding in probably more like yard games, like the giant Yahtzee and different activities. So we'll keep going with that.
You got 2 ringers right here for cornhole. We just got to get both of them
Seriously?
I'm out there.
We should have like a celebrity
It works
tournament.
so much, Josh.
Let's pushing it.
Let's do it. And just another highlight is our youth livestock market sale, which is held on the first Sunday of fair. Generated about $200,000 in sales for our youth, and that was an increase from last year. And how can we not forget our 8 exciting nights of entertainment in the grandstand, our concerts. I mean, Martina McBride and the Craig Morgan and Clint Black were favorite nights, well attended. Our ex-ambassadors put on an amazing show. Just kind of, I know you're flinching a little bit.
No, I was kind of thinking it'd be fun to go, but I just wasn't gonna do 2 in a row.
Yeah, but they put on a great show as well. You know, we finished strong with our demolition derbies and planning, you know, all of those activities, already looking at booking entertainment right now. As I mentioned last time I was here, just a lot of competition, a lot of venues, a lot of concerts happening in this town, which is awesome. So we're trying to get things done early this year. Next slide, please. Hopefully you all met Cedar, our
So cute.
adorable mascot.
Very cute.
Huge hit. We actually had a number of patrons come to the fair and say, I haven't been in years. I wanted to meet Cedar. So we had Cedar do parades. We had flower crown making activities with Cedar. We took her into the cornhole area. So a lot of VIP Cedar experiences. Cedar actually won the black and white ribbon from the state fair commissioner that visited our fair. This was our ag education area. So the farmers that owned Cedar, Delkenna Highlands, they did educational activities almost every day to learn about farming and their animals. And, you know, these are folks that started out with like no farming experience, and it's their whole livelihood. So it was a great fit for the fair. But if you look to the right, the cute gentleman up there is Bo, our new mascot for 2024. Let's just say he resembles the Riverfront Park garbage goat a little bit,
Yeah, a little bit.
but cuter, more lovable. So we are playing into the 50th anniversary of Expo next year. Now, from what the meetings we've been in, the emphasis on activities will be like May through July. We're over here in September, but we're gonna do our thing. We are gonna honor the 50th anniversary of Expo. You will go through all of our buildings. Each building will be a different country, a different theme, different educational opportunities. So something new and different for us. And we want to put together an international vendor market when you first walk in the gates, and program some more, you know, culturally diverse entertainment. So that just leads us into the last slide. We're still finalizing the logo, but Mr. Bo again, the World is a Fair, September 6th through 15th. Any questions?
Yeah, pretty exciting. I think seeing the blues, you might add the green, you know, because there's the green and the World's Fair kind of logo colors.
Yeah.
Green and blue.
Yeah,
That's a good point, yep.
I think to do. Commissioner French, I see you raised your hand.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So Aaron, I noticed that you've managed to provide a way for free access to the fair for everybody other than the cattle industry. And I don't know, unless you're a vegan, you eat meat, and yet we continue to charge them for educational purposes and stuff. So I'm hoping that this is the last year I have to raise this topic, but what are we doing for nonprofit educational groups to be able to get access, especially around the ag and cattle industry?
Well, that's great that you bring that up. We've been working on this, Jeff McMorris and myself, and we're putting together a pilot program, and we hope to have all the details ironed out in the next month. Then we'll be able to launch a grant program starting in January, and we will accept 3 applicants. I mean, everyone can apply, and then the advisory board at the Fair and Expo will review those applicants, and select 3. And again, yes, the mission of that is ag education.
So ag education is going to be the goal of the grant program?
That is correct. We'll be using dollars that we receive from the Washington State Department of Ag as a fair. Each fair receives a certain amount of funding each year. So we'll allocate $1,500 towards that program because the booth value is $500 each for those ag display booths. We currently have the beekeepers, we have master gardeners, we have a wide variety of groups that are already paying to be at the fair. So they'll have an opportunity to apply for that as well.
So the cattleman's display is basically a card table and flyers on it. That's not a booth, that's a card table and flyers.
Well, we'll work with them to enhance their area and make it probably a little bit more informative and exciting. But again, being an enterprise fund, we do charge everyone to have a display at the fair. So with your guidance and leadership, we are changing that up and again, opening up this grant opportunity.
Okay, I don't expect to be able to pay the admission fee again for them next year.
Understood.
Any other questions for Erin? I'd say great job.
Thank you.
I think it was a great fair. I was there several times, so
I appreciate it.
no, I think you guys just keep doing a great job, so thank you.
Next year will go really fast, so we'll be doing it again.
Yes,
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
thank you. And then next is gonna be Justin, so Justin, as you come up, I do wanna just recognize, I should have done this to start with Kat Nichols with, lighting the courthouse green last night. I think that was a fun event, I saw it on the news this morning, so it's fun to see the courthouse in green, so if you wanna just speak to it just quickly.
Yeah, you
That'd
bet,
be great.
you bet. I'm so thankful, for you, Commissioner Jordan, Scott, for showing up and lending your support. We've gotten great feedback from our veteran community, and one of the veterans we had there last night, Neil Seelock, has been a part of our veteran community for a very long time, and it was, I think it might be his last time coming. He's struggling with some health issues, and it was just really meaningful, very powerful thing to have everybody there. And then also recognizing our younger veteran employees, our new SkillBridge folks. I think it was just absolutely wonderful. I will say there are counties all across the nation who aren't taking this little tiny effort to light up a building green to honor their veterans. And I'm just so grateful that our leadership here in Spokane County is willing to do so. I think it's a very small token, but I think it actually means a lot to the veteran community.
Yeah, and so it's a national event that
Yep.
goes on across the nation through the National Association of Counties.
Correct.
And then it started yesterday and goes through Veterans
Yep.
Day.
Yep, all the way through Veterans Day. The courthouse is lighted green. We actually encourage community members to put a green light on their porch. We've got our service center out in the valley lit up in green as well to honor veterans. This national initiative started last year with the National Association of Counties, and there's actually some legislation pending right now that could make it a permanent thing, which we hope that's the case. We hope counties across the nation will recognize their veterans in this very simple way, but it is meaningful. And I think that the National Association of Counties has done great things. Commissioner Chris Lukasevich from Carbon County, Pennsylvania was the one who headed it up last year. And Trista, I can never pronounce her last name, but she's our new chair of the NACO Veterans and Services Committee, and she's just taken that and moving it forward in a really beautiful way. You can go to NACO's website, and they're actually posting pictures all over nationwide.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure I, recognize
Thank you.
that the county did that and let people know that they can put green lights on their businesses or houses as well. So it's now through Veterans Day, so thank you.
You bet.
And you can let Chris Dorchis know that his green lights at the Vet Services Center are working. I drove by last night to check them out.
Good deal. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so, sorry, that was just a little addition that I just want to make sure we talked about quickly. So, Justin, we'll get back to our agenda.
Morning, commissioners. As promised a couple weeks ago, coming back to prepare for our January 1 contract amendments. We have the state contracts, which always makes this awkward because they fall on July 1 and January period. And then, of course, county runs on the annual 12-month cycle. So we always have to amend when they send out amendments, which is why you see me come back in preparation for the January 1 and July. So that's what you're seeing now is they've just rolled out theirs and we're preparing for getting those into place. So we're gonna go down through those. Based on the feedback given by the commissioners, we're also encompassing the downstream portion. So every time an amendment's made, we follow that down, those amendments into our downstreams, trying to lump those up so we don't take up as much of the board's time. All these services have already been approved by the board. It's just amending to either add and or to expand and or to continue funding, which has already been approved. So apologize for some of the redundancy, but this is sometimes how these amendments work. So we'll jump right in. The first one has to do with a legislative change that occurred last year that now goes into effect January 1. This has to do with 1688 and the No Surprise Billing Act in conjunction with the 1477 House bill that looked at expanding crisis services. So this was brought forward to the commissioners back in spring. With the 1688 bill, the Office of the Insurance Commissioner, the OIC, was charged with enforcing more of the commercial insurance's coverage of crisis services. So as it stands now for behavioral health crisis, both the RCL, Regional Crisis Line, and for H2011 Mobile Crisis Services, the state passes funds through ASO and we pay for all individuals commercially insured or for those that are non-insured. Medicaid pays their proportionate share. It falls out to be about 70-30 split. That means that money that we receive from the state covers individuals who have insurance that should be covering it, but are not mandated by the state. The state indicated that that should not be the case any longer and that there should be a coverage of services. That forced OIC to implement rules last year in January and then give them a waiver to allow for implementation. That's now ending January 1. So to support the region, we have been, and this was the task that the board gave us to explore options. What would that look like if we contracted with commercial insurance? So we've been spending the last couple of months having a lot of negotiations, discussions with them. We finally have come to the point where we believe we could, within our administrative capacity, take on commercial insurance to pay their proportionate share. And we believe we do have estimated rates that would be able to sufficiently at least take care of a portion of the costs that would be associated. Some of the commercials, there's over 18 of them in Washington State, are so small that they don't have a representation in our region for covered lives. It ultimately boils down to paying your share of what you're utilizing. So what we're asking for the board is, now that we've explored it and we believe that possibly exists for us to do this, we would like permission to move forward to actually begin negotiating those contracts and implementing those. And what the end user will receive, or what they would experience, the residents of Spokane County and the service area, is no change. They continue to receive the exact same services at the high level of quality and care, and there would be no disruption. What will be seen on the back end is the general state, GSF dollars, general state fund dollars that we receive for crisis services that are then freed up from the commercial insurance that we receive, will then go back into reinvesting and expanding the crisis system. Right now, we've got a workforce shortage. They don't want to give us a lot of money. As you knew too, we started the Mobile Response and Stabilization Program for youth and families, which is for a grant from SAMHSA that we won. We would like to expand that further. We'd like to look at other options like expanded co-deployed teams. Those are all things that we are wanting to utilize and reinvest the money back into the system. So the question on the table is, next slide, will the board give approval to move forward to begin negotiations with services, which will cover HCPCS Siri codes H2011, which is mobile crisis response. They won't cover regional crisis line calls, so we'll still have to use state dollars for that. And then if it is, and we're able to come to negotiation, can we proceed with initiating those contracts, which again will come before the board.
Justin, will this then place the billing responsibility on your team to bill directly to commercial insurers to receive those funds back?
Yes, so currently we do that with 4 Medicaid managed care, and with the state, we'll be adding probably 18 more. Well, I'm hoping, I don't think all 18 will do it, because I think the OIC's penalty fees may be less than what they would have to pay to actually fund it, so I think they're gonna have to have a discussion internally which route they go. I believe the top 4 in our region, which include Premier Blue Cross, Kaiser Permanente, Assurus, and Aetna, may be the ones that would probably move forward. And head nods, yes?
I don't see any
Excellent.
downside.
No, like I said,
That's right.
we invest all the money into the system. Worst case scenario, no one agrees, we continue providing services uninterrupted. And it's actually less work for me. But ultimately, again, better for the community. Excellent. All right, next 3 ones we'll be covering are, again, just re-emphasizing the contracts that are already in place and coming for amendment in January 1 to continue with those. So next slide. That includes our Healthcare Authority main contract, which includes involuntary treatment services for Spokane County and Spokane County Regional Service Area individuals, all crisis services, proviso funded services like our Recovery Navigator program, our host homeless outreach and stabilization treatment program, and then the various other contracts like a diversion program that are funded under that. Next slide. That will include downstream contracts. Next slide. Which will impact providers across the region, including the crisis providers in the counties, Pondere, Adams, Ferry, Lincoln, and Stevens counties. So those crisis services that exist within those regions as well. So next slide, we're asking just to continue with the amendments to allow us to proceed with those existing contracts and all the subsequent downstream contracts. Next slide. The same with our developmental disabilities bridge and school to work provider agreements. This has to do with supported employment and community inclusion. We've already shared this, again, is already services in place. It's just amending our contracts to include this. And this is, we just asked for an amendment to these to increase funding to close out the year. So you've already heard of these. We're just continuing that amendment with those expansions next year. And we have subsequent funding from the state as well as with millage to cover those. So just a continuation of amazing services already in place. Don't think I need to go in that too much in depth since we just covered that 2 weeks ago. Any questions? Next slide. Those are the contracted providers. All right, next slide. And so yeah, that's just continuing that for the next calendar year. Which, again, we have briefed about the mini grants as well. So those are the ones that are just awarded and will continue as well. Next slide. And again, those are the list of the providers and the grants and services that they cover. It's expansive, and we just got that viewed 2 weeks ago. So I'm just going to power through that, and end on the request is to continue with the contract with DDA and with the subsequent downstreams that we have with our contracted entities. Excellent. If there's no questions, I'll move on to the next 2 locally funded services. Again, we just briefed on these as well, but again, we're coming up for a January 1, and I wanted just to close out the year to be able to proceed. This includes our, next slide, Jim, our ISW program. Because of ESD 101 and the addition of that program, we'll be amending contracts to include those moving forward. We'll just want approval to continue with those. Again, the most recent one being the addition of East Valley. So again, this just continues those with East Valley, Riverside, Freeman, Cheney, and West Valley. And I believe since we already covered the budget on that too, the fund amounts were already approved by the board as well.
So with that, I know I had a request from a representative about what the cost of that program is. And the other piece I think of that would be how many students, because each district kind of by district and how many students that would be served with those funds. If you could get that to me.
Yeah, we can definitely get that. I can tell you right away that we've, this year alone, including the incorporation of last year, it's been over 500 students. But that's not, those are just direct surveyed. There's the entire population of schools allowed to access those. And how we keep track of those could be an engagement or direct service. We keep those separate. So there's more engagements that occur for support than there are clinical treatment services. And so we'll provide those too as well. So oftentimes we can't keep track of every one-to-one engagement.
Right, that's what I was thinking, just kind of like what does one class, sophomore class, look like at that district? And what's the total high school population of the district? Just, I think that would be helpful to know that that's how much those dollars are helping support.
I think with this year, our goal is, depending on the schools, 900 youth would receive a survey and direct treatment services, and then an additional up to 200 would have some sort of engagement, either resource support or engagement.
It's pretty amazing. So, because we're, just so you know, too, we're at Launch Northwest, we're looking at using some of those dollars to enhance what School District 81 is doing within their schools.
Right.
So it's not, so they don't just have to bill Medicaid, to provide the opportunity for them to see students other than Medicaid students. So,
Exactly, and that is wonderful because they do outpatient services. It would expand our ability to refer to them internally and receive that ongoing care. Now, this is brief intervention, that's ongoing outpatient. It's a wonderful addition. So, yeah, very excited about
we
that.
haven't had the chance to talk about it, so I want to catch up with you on that.
Yes, and we can get you all the numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right. That closes out our ISW SBIRT. And then the next one is our BHTSP, Behavioral Health Transitional Support Program. This is also funded by our mental health sales taxes, provides behavioral transitional support individuals in transitional housing settings, so in 2 shelters for VOA. And then we also pay for outpatient services for non-Medicaid individuals receiving therapeutic engagement that they refer from that program. And so we're asking that we continue this program going into next year. We are hard at work. They've hired a couple people doing that service, but the outpatients, VOA is still working on getting that developed. I think last year they had a total of 17 services provided. We're hoping to expand that, or I guess 17 unique people served. There's more services than that. So we hope to expand that this next year. So yeah, that's coming in the January 1 amendment. So we're just asking the board to approve us to move forward with that and the subsequent downstream. Excellent. And again, we have, and that was part of the budgeted mental health sales tax already presented to the board as well. All right, and the last one we have is sort of a kind of a weird one. It's the DSHS Working Long-Term Payable Agreement. So anytime the state delays in getting us the contract out, we still have to pay providers. And there's not a lot of money to pay them while we're waiting for the state. It could be up to months so they figure things out. So the state passed a long-term payable agreement, which gives us bridge funding to pay for those services until they finalize the contract. Now, this funding has certain agreements with it. We have to use it for the specific purposes in place. And if we weren't to continue the contracts, if the board decided, no, we don't want to do away with it, then of course we'd have to return it. If we don't use the funding, then we would have to also return it. There's always that clause in there. But by accepting this, we always reduce the liability, the impact to providers for any disruptions that may come from the state or changes in legislation. The cool thing is we've never had to use it in recent years because we've been really good at pre-planning in advance and ensuring providers are made whole. So there is funds there, but continuing that just prevents any potential risk. So we ask the board to let us continue to agree and receive that. And of course, it doesn't impact the county at all, just removes any sort of impact to our providers downstream. All right, and that ends all of the just updates. Any questions, concerns? Awesome. Well, this should be the last time I have to brief any of this for the remainder of this year. We'll be back in January, but
We don't mind.
yes.
Don't mind seeing you.
Yes, and I appreciate it, but you know, these tend to be a little bit boring in terms of just approve the same thing, so,
Thank you,
yes,
appreciate it.
yes. Appreciate all your time. Thanks so much, everyone, for today.
Thanks.
How are you doing?
Good, good, thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
This is just a quick briefing. It's Kyle's not online. Okay. Last week we had the wastewater policy advisory board meeting, the annual meeting, and staff proposed a total of a $1 increase to the sewer fees, monthly sewer fees. So it's 50 cents for the wastewater treatment plant charge and 50 cents on the O&M charge. So that's roughly 2.06% increase from last year's fees. And if we can take this to hearing, the likely effective date would be March 1st of 2024 when this would go into effect. Is there any questions or?
So we were at the meeting last week with the City of the Valley has a couple of members and we have one member at large since that's the sewer representation. And we all agreed to this, voted on it, and we're bringing it forward to the board for approval. Scott?
You covered it. I was just gonna share with the rest of the board who the membership of that policy group is, but you already got it.
Oh, there we go. Yes. So yes, there's Josh and I are on it because basically it's our districts that are affected by the sewer. And then Arnie, two city council members, it's Arnie Woodard and Ron Higgins right now. And then one of the citizens from that receives sewer service, Bill Goff. He's a citizen at large. So, yes. So there you go.
Former councilman.
Wait.
Former
Yes,
council member.
former council member. Commissioner Jordan?
What's the time frame? Do we set it for a hearing a couple weeks out, or how does the schedule work?
I think it's like the 28th, maybe?
I believe it is on the 28th. I'd probably go out the notice. Notice the hearing would be next week. Hearing would be on the 28th, I think.
Yeah, so Commissioner, on the, on your agenda today is the setting of the hearing for the 28th. Okay, that's right, Louis, that's the stormwater management, that's
Oh, there
stormwater
it
management
is.
services.
3B. Is that it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, that's stormwater.
That's stormwater, that's not the,
I don't think it's.
We don't have it on here yet.
That'll be next.
so we won't be able to approve the hearing until the 28th, right? And then the hearing will be on the 5th.
Either the 5th or the 12th.
Okay.
It might be 2 weeks out.
Get it done before the end of the year.
Then it takes some time, so it's like, they were trying to get it by the 1st of February, but I think the 1st of March will probably be more.
Yeah, our Shannon would like to give like 2 months notice, for people to be prepared for it and get their auto pay for the sewer bills. So we're aware of it at a time. So.
Okay, so we need to make sure it gets on the schedule, the notice of public hearing then for next time. We don't want to delay any further. So, okay. Anything else? No? Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hi Deb, how are you?
Well, I made it just in the nick of time.
We're running
We're
early.
ready for you.
Wow. How's everyone this morning?
Cold.
Seemed like it was summer just yesterday. I'm in front of you today, it's a real quick, our Solid Waste Advisory Committee. We originally changed the makeup when the county took over the regional system to include our member jurisdictions. And recently, the board revised our SWAC membership resolution to include citizens at large for commissioner districts, all of them. What we missed during this, and I apologize, is that on our previous resolution, when we included the membership directive for our jurisdictions that have an interlocal with us, we named specifically the ones at the time in 2014 that wanted to be on the SWAC instead of leaving it open. So we have just last year brought Cheney into the system. They weren't included. So really what we're just changing is the language more generic, saying anyone who has an interlocal to be in our regional system has the opportunity to put an appointee on our SWAC. So that's what we're asking. That way I won't have to come back to you every time someone joins or leaves the system.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so then I'm seeing that District 4 is vacant, so.
Yes, District 4 and the Health District, they need a new appointee as well. Bruce Williams is appointed, he retired. Mike Leskola is filling in, but he's retiring as well, so we'll see what we can get from him.
Okay. So you're reaching out to the Health District to,
Pardon?
you're reaching out to the Health District to find
Yes.
someone there? Okay. And I will, let me know if you have any thoughts on someone in District 4.
Okay, I was looking to see if I lived in District 4 so I can get my husband on there, but I don't. So,
Yeah, but
yes, we
yeah.
will.
Let me know, just because I mean, you want, if someone had some knowledge, but, yeah, so, thank you.
Is that it?
Any
Oh,
other
this was
questions for Deb?
easy to answer?
Seems easy,
Let's do it.
too easy.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, I turn my page there, Rob. Welcome, Rob. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How's everyone today? Good. I'm here as an administrator with administrative items. This should be very quick. 2 items coming up. Items F and G on the agenda are regarding our voluntary stewardship program. It's a pass-through program with funding coming from the Washington State Conservation Commission. It goes directly to the Spokane Conservation District. I've been here a number of times describing the program to you. Today is simply an amendment to an agreement that this board authorized earlier this year for about $47,000 to conduct environmental monitoring as part of the program. So it's really as simple as that. And so I have, as an administrator, I need to update our contracts both with the Washington State Conservation Commission and the Conservation District. So it's as simple as that. Just 2 amendments coming through. So, and since they are pass-through agreements, I have to do, every agreement gets 2 administrative actions. So it's as simple as that. And then the next one, number H, is regarding our education program with Central Valley School District. One of our key programs with them is our 5th grade environmental day camp, where we work with partners including the City of the Valley, Liberty Lake, Sewer and Water, and every 5th grader in Central Valley comes out to Liberty Lake Park and has some time with our watershed folks, also with biologists, and they take a walk through the woods. And so it's an impactful day for all those students. And so the agreement that I brought to you earlier this year envisioned the work to happen during the academic year of 23, and our resolution identified the academic year of 23. Well, we've decided to move it forward into 24, and our legal counsel advised that I should bring the resolution to you because our agreement did not mention 2024. And so.
So you're bringing into academic year, I guess.
Let me rephrase. This is a no-cost time extension amendment to our existing agreement to extend the agreement into the spring of 2024. We're not spending any more money. We're just extending the agreement date.
So we just didn't put the academic, the school year versus a calendar year.
Yeah, that
So
was my administrative error, I guess.
No, I mean, that's okay. So that's all it is. It's
That's all
just-
it is.
It's still within the same academic calendar year
In
for
the
the
same
school.
calendar year, the same amount of funding that we agreed upon, just extending the date from basically from October 30th to July 15th. We can get it done in the springtime.
I'm just making sure that we're not missing a year with the students.
No.
It's just
And I'm
different fiscal
learning-
years.
And I'm learning as I go, the next agreement will indeed make allowance for potentially extending an agreement like that. So, live and learn.
As you know, it's all crazy. It's like the schools have their own fiscal year. We've got our calendar year. The state has their fiscal year that's different. So yes, it all gets confusing.
But the good news is that we're doing it. And that
Yes,
we
that's
have excellent relationships with our school districts, and these are good programs.
Yeah, and I think there was talk of some of the fifth grade teachers that I had talked to out at Central Valley were talking about even maybe moving from Liberty Lake to the Learning Center
Yeah,
was another option that they were
you
wanting
bet, yeah.
to look at too.
We're definitely, we'd be up for supporting that for sure.
So anyway, just putting that out there, that I'm hearing that from some of the teachers that, you know, since you've got the indoor space now too, as well as the outdoor space, so that would be a great learning environment as well, so.
I will take this moment just to say that now that we've gone into daylight savings time, we've seen a dramatic drop off in the amount of visitors to the Torres Morrison Learning Center. And so we're no longer having those staffed hours out there. So we're going into our winter hibernation now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So any other questions for Rob?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I kind of peppered him. So, thank you. Okay.
Good morning, guys.
Welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
You guys are here in place of Dawn.
Yes, he is out of town.
It's like there's a conference going on in Tri-Cities.
Yeah, the WASPIC conference.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a copy of the contract, or do you need copies?
I think we should have it online.
If anybody wants a paper copy, we have some copies here.
Okay, and we will let you guys just go ahead and get started. I don't know if there's. I'm just trying to.
I don't.
get it.
I have the contract if you want.
We should be okay. Okay, we'll let you guys just go ahead.
All right, so we are
And if
looking.
you could introduce
Yep.
yourselves, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Sergeant Justin White.
And Ivana Vukicevic.
And so I oversee the training and hiring unit, and she's our staff assistant. And we are looking to move to publicsafetytesting.com for running all of our hiring for new corrections officers. It's kind of the industry standard across the state. We're one of the only agencies in the state not using them. You know, the sheriff's office and Spokane Police Department also use them. This is where all applicants are really going to look for law enforcement corrections jobs. And so we're just trying to stay up to date with what everybody else is doing and stay competitive so that we are not missing out on applicants. We're currently still sitting about 25 vacant corrections officer positions.
25 out of how many?
Roughly about 200 sworn.
Okay, thank you.
So it's a very, basic agreement. We're sitting at about $6,000 annually, plus an additional cost of allowing us to have people. So when they test, these applicants are actually paying to test with publicsafetytesting.com. So they have a vested interest in this already. However, they do have job fairs where we can go and meet with applicants and have them send us their tests, which we would pay for. That's about $11 per applicant. And they also do have a scholarship program where we would be able to pay for testing. If somebody just came to us and say, hey, I really want to work for you, but I absolutely can't afford the testing. We estimate that to be about 20 candidates a year, and then about another 10 candidates for the scholarship, so we're looking at about $7,000 a year for the county, which is actually a savings over what it's costing us to do it now to run it in-house.
I spoke to Bryce Miller, they do have it in their budget.
Correct.
That was gonna be my next question.
Yep,
Here we go.
yep, Bryce prepped me on that before we came over as well, so.
It's like Mary's gonna ask you.
Yep.
100%.
Very good, okay. So this is a contract that's gonna be on the agenda, consent agenda then, coming up.
Correct,
Correct.
yes.
Any other questions? That's it.
All right,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Hopefully it helps you,
Oh, it should.
Yeah, it definitely will.
Should be huge help.
yes, good. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day. Okay, next, I guess, Randy?
Yeah, I'm gonna fill in for Tessa, she's still in the ERP meeting, so. Okay, commissioners, what we have for you today, what's that?
So we're gonna be ahead of schedule today. This is gonna be awesome.
Because I'm here, right?
Uh-oh.
Not gonna
Say
do it.
that, yeah.
I'll try not to go too slow then. These are some fourth quarter budget changes that we will put, it'll be on your, November 28th agenda, and the public hearing will be on the 12th of December. The first one that we have is some elections equipment. They are appropriating money. The elections department charges money to everybody that puts things on the ballot, and that is set aside for the equipment, so we are appropriating revenue from that for them, $250,000.
As long as you're there, I had a question. So when the elections department does their, because they charge for equipment replacement, so
Correct.
that's part of, I think that I was positioned to help make that happen. I want to make sure the interest on that is staying with that is not one of those that we're sweeping, because those are dollars from outside agencies. And so that would not be interest that I think should be coming to the general fund.
I don't, they don't get the interest on anyway, because that is inside the general fund. That is money inside the general fund.
I think we need to look at that, because just as an auditor, since those dollars are coming from outside agencies, and again, we haven't had
But it is a
interest.
fee that we are charging, so it's really not the outside agency's money. So I would argue on the other side of that. Right now, it is in the general fund, and it is the general fund's interest income.
So I would just argue that it should go into that replacement fund. So we may have a different opinion to talk
Yes,
about
we
later.
may. Exactly.
But I'm just gonna raise that point, so.
Exactly, we will have a difference of opinion to talk about later. The second one is emergency management with the wildfires. We are going to need to transfer some budget to help cover their overtime. They do not have enough budget to do that. We are transferring $34,161. We are taking that from our contingency budget that we had. Sheriff's extra duty, Sheriff's Department, this is where they go out to other businesses pays the Sheriff Department for those deputies. So what we are doing here is appropriating revenue to incur the additional expense. To get us through year end, we believe we will need to appropriate an additional $815,000 of revenue to cover all the additional revenue and expense that they are incurring in that area. Number 4, witness and interpretation costs have been high in the prosecutor's office. 81,000 will get us through the end of the year. And so it's just, that's one of those expenses when you budget at the beginning of the year, you don't know where you're gonna be. You're gonna be high, you're gonna be low. This year was a high year of costs in their area. And
I think, looks like the bullet,
Background is
Didn't
from
get-
is from the wrong one.
so where's the money being, where's the money
Sorry.
being transferred from?
that is gonna come out of our contingency also.
Okay.
We had, we still have contingency money left over from last year. That will come out of that, but you're right, the background is wrong on that. But it's coming from the same spot.
Okay.
And then the last one, risk management, we need to appropriate 2.7 million out of fund balance. And that is for unanticipated settlements and premium increases to get them through December 31st. And then all of the other ones, following number 6 through 29 are basically grants that the board has accepted this past year. And so we are formally adopting the budget for those. So, you know, we have our block grants, but it's just for a lot of different agencies, Fund 151, 152, stuff you've done for CARES, the ASO. But it's just recognizing those grants and formally adopting them as a budget item for 2023. And then anything that is not spent, of course, will carry forward into 2024. Did you have any questions on any of those?
So I have a question on the risk management.
Yes.
Just talking to other commissioners, I mean, they're seeing huge increases.
We are.
And so I kind of just want to get an update as to where we're at. I mean, because this is for 2023, this isn't even looking at 2024. And I'm hearing from other commissioners how much 2024 is going up. And so sometimes hard in the budget, you know, in the binder just to know what that is. So I mean, I guess I'd just like a quick briefing on that.
So really high level, Steve's the one who would be able to give a lot more details, but we do have concerns as well. So for 2025, 2026, we're hearing in risk pool, you know, people are looking at a 20% increase, right? When we're looking at 2024, 2025, 2026. So our actuaries, we're still in a pretty decent place right now, but understanding what's been happening all around us, there is definitely some concern about what that looks like in the future. So Steve has been doing a good job working with budget, and they're really looking at that in the future. But there is definitely some concern around what this looks like. If we take interest now on risk, even what does that do in the future? So it is one of the departments that did reach out and said that they're questioning and have a bit of concern around what it's going to look like in future years for us as we start seeing those changes on rates across the risk pool in general.
So I guess, you know, seeing 2.7 million that's got to come out of fund balance, I mean, my question would be, okay, what do you think?
I believe their fund balance is around 17 million going into this year. I could be wrong, something like that.
So they've got it.
They have fund balance to do it. It's more of looking 2 to 3 years down the road, as Ashley's pointing out. It's not looking at this year, it's not looking at next year, it's we're 25, 26 is where that's where we need to be looking ahead and seeing where we're going to be in those times and what do we need to do for those areas.
And same, I want to have Steve come and just on a workshop morning. Yep. To kind of talk about where they're at, because I know, because I was talking to Commissioner Kaufman over in Lincoln County, and they're having like a $400,000 increase, you know, for them as a small county. That's huge. So I mean, so I know, you know, that's the premium, you know, just, you know, so I mean, I just, as and other commissioners are saying, this is happening across the state. So I think it'd be good to just kind of get briefed, you know, because if the jury settled, you know, if something does go to court, I mean, the jury settlements are just becoming huge. And what that means. And, you know, kind of, you know, I think he does his report to us, but, you know, just, it's like you hear different things at different times, and so it just might be a good heads up for us to understand what that means, because then from the 20, as we look at the 23 budget to 24, now this is included. So it's like trying to understand what the reality really is.
That's all I have, unless you have any other questions.
Any other questions?
And like I said, this will be on your 11/28 2 p.m. meeting, and then we will hold the final hearing on December 12th. Okay.
Which now it's perfectly for Ashley that came out.
Yep, just not gonna move.
So now the other Ashley.
Yes. Did you get the other Ashley C this morning?
Yeah, she was here at time, so.
Perfect.
There we go.
So I'm here to chat with you guys about the hearing examiner contract. So just a little bit of a reminder, Stacy Borjal has been appointed through resolution as a hearing examiner for Spokane County. And she is currently under contract through the 15th of this month. We did an initial 6-month contract with her, recognizing that part of her work as an independent contractor, she'd be on site, and part of it she would be off-site as she resides in Florida and is working on relocating to Spokane. She has, to my knowledge, been doing well for the last 6 months in her role. She has been over here a couple of weeks each month. She has purchased a residence, her and her spouse have purchased a residence here in our area, but they're still working on closing out her husband's business. So they haven't transitioned and moved over here yet, but they are clearly going to, based on the residence that she purchased over here. Her ask was that we, similar to kind of what we talked about originally, just go through a year of independent contractor agreement. So her goal is to be here no later than May 1st. I put on this contract May 31st would be essentially the rest of the pay periods if we were to look at a 6 more month extension. But if they are able to get here sooner than that, then we have language in the contract that would enable us to end the independent contractor, and then we could hire her as a regular employee who would then be living in the Washington, Idaho area. And so the goal would be sooner rather than later, but May 1st, she thinks is the latest that she would be here. When I chatted with her a couple weeks ago, her plan through winter is to continue to be in the Spokane area and do in-person hearings for some of those more sticky ones where it just makes sense for her to be here. So her and Kevin figure out the scheduling and what week she's going to be here and what hearings that she'll be here for. No less than 1 week a month is what she's looking at through winter. And then she's also been doing most of her hearings via Zoom and helping step into the city of Spokane's hearings as well now, as their hearing examiner tendered his resignation and has moved into private sector. So her and Kevin have been balancing that well. It's my understanding, based on conversation with Stacy, that she stays connected with Chris Anderson if and when she has questions or things come up or anything like that. So what's on this contract is kind of a last minute scramble, so I apologize that it's on an update today and on the agenda for tomorrow, but with Tony Hall leaving the county, since it's a purchasing agreement, it hit me, oh my goodness, we have the resolutions in place that she's our examiner. There's no end date on that, but this contract expires at the beginning of next week. And so since you guys are not meeting next week for consent, asked to have it briefed in consent this week. The dollar value hasn't changed, nothing like that, it's just an extension of dates.
I think it's on today.
Yeah, oh yeah, today's Tuesday, yes, sorry, my days are running away. So it's same week, I'm briefing and I'm consenting on the same week. Since you guys are not meeting next week, the contract would be expired.
Oh, there it is. DD. Page 4. Bottom.
So Chris, I guess, asking you kind of how you think it's going. I know I was hopeful to do a 90-day and not a 6-month extension, just because I think it's important to finally get her here. So especially if she's taking on the city of Spokane as well now, and she's the city of Spokane Valley already, so.
I've certainly not heard of any significant issues coming out of there. Stacy has contacted me on a couple of issues that we have discussed and kind of worked through, specifically a couple related to her filling in as a pro tem for other jurisdictions, to make sure we have all the necessary agreements set up and put together. And then Kevin Ruiz reaches out on various issues, but in everything that they have expressed, it seems like things are working smoothly and doing well.
Commissioner French?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, if somebody's going to complain about the hearing examiner, my guess is I'm going to be one of those that skipped the first call. And I've heard absolutely zero complaints about her performance over the last several months. And because of her wealth of knowledge and experience with not only the county, but the Growth Management Act, this seems like a small inconvenience to deal with for the benefit of having knowledge and expertise in that area. So I certainly would be willing to support the extension.
Thank you. No, I'm happy to extend. I'm just hopeful she gets here sooner than later. So, you know, that's my only thought. So. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, then you'll see it this afternoon. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, I've got a couple of items for briefing today. One is a follow-up to a briefing item that was brought forward maybe a month ago. This is regarding a request by Broadlink, our broadband PDA, to lease some, I'm sorry, do these out of order. I'll do the Shrek one first. So Lori Markham, Executive Director for Shrek, came in a couple of months ago. There was a request by the Shrek board to locate their future facility out next to the Small Arms Range. Initially, they were looking to acquire property from the county. In talking through our real estate group, we determined that there were no further segregations that were available on that property. So we pivoted over to looking at a land lease. The resolution that I'm briefing on today, it'll be on a future consent agenda, would be to basically basically support the location and the leasing of the facility next to the Small Arms Range, and then have the county staff work on a lease agreement that would memorialize this. And then that lease agreement would come back to you once it's finalized for a public hearing, which we have to do statutorily when we're leasing county land. So it essentially lays forth a commitment by the board that we are going to work for a lease agreement with them. This allows Shrek to begin planning on their standing up a building committee, starting to hire consultants for design, and begin working towards the ultimate plan for the building with some certainty that it's going to be located next to the Small Arms Range. Lori had highlighted a number of things that are beneficial to this location: operational resiliency, a location, a secured facility, Air Force standards, all those things that make a lot of sense. There should be a map in the briefing packet that kind of shows conceptually where it's going to be at. There it is up on the screen there. We've got identified the square footage, the approximate square footage that would be built into a lease agreement. Plan would be to look at whatever the commercially available commercial leases and the value of those leases would be. Shrek would be paying for that land lease underlying it. So, questions from the board?
One just quick clarification on process here. Obviously, you know, the land out at the Small Arms Range is just not something that we can lease to the general public or open up to, you know, any other government entity. However, based on the public hearing and the other requirements, you know, this resolution is certainly kind of an intent to work towards a lease, but as far, you know, is not a firm or final commitment because it cannot be that. It has to wait until the public hearing and the final lease agreement. So just point of clarification on the process.
Commissioner French?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So Scott, that area where the future building is proposed to go, is that is in any way impacting the pit area? Is there a substantial amount of fill that we have to do there, or is that prior to getting to the pit?
I don't believe it impacts the pit area. Both Lori and Dave Ellis worked in concert to identify an appropriate location for it. So they felt like this was the best option to keep some flow and continuity with the respective facilities in there.
Okay, and then that dirt road that lies just to the left on your drawing there is, you might want to confirm whether that is a road, if that is an easement or is that actually a county road? Because I believe during the construction, we had some challenges, and that road is privately owned with easements for access. And I don't know that we've got an access easement onto that road from the Schreck property. If it doesn't look like it's required, but just it became a problem during construction. I just don't want it to continue to hamper our ability to use the site.
Yeah, I believe that is a private road. It's a private parcel that goes to a property to the south through there. The intent would be to still do ingress and egress to our property through 902. We have, I believe there were some discussions with WashDOT that there may have to be some further improvements to that intersection, or not the intersection, but that ingress egress, depending on the traffic volumes that are out there. But yes, we'll keep an eye on that. And Commissioner French, I also wanted to affirm, I know you had raised some months ago, Schreck working with FAA on the height of a radio tower, and they did get approval from FAA that the height of their proposed tower would be compliant, not impacting any of the runway for Geiger, for Spokane International Airport.
Great, thank you. And one last suggestion would be that you might want to circle back with Cody Rohrbach with Fire District 3. I think they're the ones that service this property, and make sure that we're not going to be required, because we're starting to increase the massing, be required for a second fire exit onto the property. And so that would be the other little checkpoint that you'd probably want to be able to make sure you address. Thank you.
Will do. And benefit is he happens to sit on the Schreck board, so he'll be a good live person to ask that question to.
Well, he sits on the Schreck board as long as he gives us the right answer.
I think we'll be able to get there.
Okay.
Any other questions, Commissioner Waldron?
So, are there any other future needs for that area, or anything else we need to consider as replacing? Is that area to the south still available?
The southwest corner, is that what you're looking at? It looks like it based on the map that there's still available utilization of property out there. And I understand that through Chief Ellis, who's been kind of leading the charge on the small arms range, they feel like this would be not only an appropriate use, but also a compatible use and doesn't limit their ability for any future needs on the property.
So what would be the functions that would move out? Would the radio shop move out?
Yes. So Schreck in its entirety, the
Not emergency management,
not emergency management.
but
Yep.
everything else that's in that trailer area.
Yeah, so Schreck, the radio shop sits back next to in our DEM shop today. That would actually move out here as well. Yep. I think the sheriff has some different ideas on where DEM could go to in the future, some different partnership ideas. I don't know if those are ready for prime time yet. He's been in discussions with.
What about the sheriff's garage? Like if there's future development around the jail?
Yep, that would
Would
have to
this
be
be a
replaced as well.
location for
And
the
that's-
sheriff's
This
garage?
is a location that he's identified as well.
Okay, just wanna make sure we just build it in a way that allows for those other uses.
Yeah, the blocking here is
There's a
really
lot of
kind of more
parking, but-
modular to allow, to not place it right in the middle and then keep some other potential expansion going there.
And so the need for the hearing is because of the zoning around a small arms range? Is that what you're referring to?
No, that's for lease of any public property.
Oh, okay.
So that applies to any time we
There
lease
isn't any
property.
DOD or anything related to,
I am not aware, I'm sure we will find out as we work through coming up with a lease if there are DOD requirements based on our.
just put a
joint-
Macio on it.
Yes,
Give-
yes. Precisely.
Hopefully not,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah, hopefully the DOD stuff is all limited to the small arms range building and we can sidestep that with this future stuff, so.
Agreement to move forward.
All right, now my next one that I started with.
Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. Have you had has Shrek had conversations with the city of Spokane about the current facility that they're in? And like when they might no longer be leasing it? I mean, are there conversations about that?
Yes, and Chief Schaefer, Fire Department of Spokane, City of Spokane sits on the board as well, so he's very well aware of the plans, the timing. Okay, next one. This was an item that got briefed to the board about a month ago. Broadlink had requested the ability to lease space on one of our emergency communications towers that the county owns that is used for our Shrek radio systems. So from that meeting, we've then been working on, with the assistance of Chris Anderson, on a three-way lease agreement for the radio tower. That would be between the county, Shrek, and Broadlink. Shrek is involved because they do all of the equipment installation, maintenance of the towers. They did all the they had Broadlink commission a load rating on the tower. They had Broadlink commission a radio frequency interference, and that was briefed to you before. So this is a lease agreement for our co-road tower. That location is, if you go south on 185 to about Plaza, it's just kind of west of there. That's kind of the area. The need was really to enable Fire District 3 to get some better coverage out there for broadband, which there's a lot of dead spots. So there's a lot of benefit to doing this. This would be using their small site broadband capabilities that, if you recall, we got the grant from Commerce. That was then handed over to Broadlink, that they worked with NewJay to be able to install some of these things. So just some overviews of the terms of the agreement. It is a 3-year agreement. That was to align with, we actually leased the property from a landowner out there. Their lease agreement expires in 3 years. We did have to get permission from the landowner to sublease. That's specific in our agreement. And there is a obligation to share lease proceeds from any sublease with the landowner. So the term is 3 years. We've come up with a $1,200 annual rent payment. That was particularly important. We don't have necessarily a requirement to charge our PDAs for revenue in certain circumstances, but the underlying property owner made it pretty clear that if we did not, they wanted to know what they were going to get for revenue. So it wasn't really an ability for us to just say zero. They may have withheld their permission to allow us to sublease it. So $1,200 annually. The lessee, Broadlink in this case, is responsible for any electrical upgrades that are needed to service the equipment. They'll also be responsible for all the electric power out there independently with the utility company. And then there are extensions for an additional 2 additional 5-year terms if requested. If there's anything else I wanted to highlight, they will have to, Broadlink will also have to coordinate with Shrek for access to the facility, access to the property, installation, testing, all that sort of stuff, and if they need to remove things and relocate it for any maintenance that Shrek has to do on the towers. So we've got to take all those provisions in there. So, any questions on it? Okay. That will also be then coming up on likely your 28th agenda.
And the Broadlink board, we haven't, I mean, we're gonna approve it, we just, it didn't get on our meeting ended too quickly. We have too many things on the agenda, so it is coming before us, but we'll be approving it as well. Or is Jim?
Is Jim hanging around?
Jim's the short one.
See if Jim wants to go.
See if he's here, otherwise I can do that one as well.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on what time the negotiations exec session will be? And I could touch base. Right.
This is running way ahead. We're 30 minutes
Hey,
ahead.
he's here.
There he is.
Madam Chair?
And start, Jim, and then we'll come back to Chandra.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Board members, I'm here for a very short item. As you know, a small town can obtain fire services by an interlocal agreement with a fire district, or if they want, they can provide their own fire services. A third method is for a small town to annex into the boundaries within a fire district. In this particular case, the town of Fairfield has been receiving fire services from Fire District Number 2 by interlocal agreement. Now they've decided they'd like to annex into the boundaries of the fire district. In order to do that, the statute requires we need two things. Number one, we need an ordinance from the town of Fairfield indicating that they'd like to annex into the boundaries of Fire District Number 2. And we need a resolution from Fire District 2 indicating that they agree with that. Once both documents are prepared, they're forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners. By law, the Board of County Commissioners, upon receipt of the ordinance from the town and the resolution from the fire district, is required to set an election on the issue at the next election under the RCW. In this particular case, the auditor's office has advised that the next election is February 18th, 2024. So what Chris Anderson's staff has prepared is a resolution for the Board of County Commissioners action next Tuesday, where you set an election within the town of Fairfield. This afternoon, excuse me.
Yeah.
The town of Fairfield, I'm sorry. Thank you, Chris. The town of Fairfield and Fire District Number 2 to determine if they want to annex into the boundaries of the fire district. It's a ministerial matter. The board has to pass the resolution and send it over to the auditor's office. Unless there's any questions, that's my presentation on this item.
And I think,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, we're trying to get it done, I mean, it's been a process. Trying to get it done, so, because it's gotta be to the auditor's office to be on the ballot in February, everything has to be done by mid-December.
Yes.
To get on that February ballot, so.
That is correct, Madam Chair. She's absolutely right, and that's why it needs to be done by the end of the year, so we meet the time frame to put it on the February ballot.
Yes.
You're absolutely correct.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Macio, do you have any long lost twins that you're aware of? Because there was a gentleman here on Halloween who looked a lot like you.
I know. I did see that, Commissioner
Okay.
Jordan.
We
Yeah,
probably could show
I
it.
actually took a picture with him.
Okay, good.
I'll show you that.
I'd love to see that.
I haven't seen it.
Madam Chair, is there anything else on this item?
Shooting, find a picture.
Well,
Nothing else.
I haven't
okay.
seen it.
Anything else, Madam Chair?
No, thank you, and thank you for helping Fairfield.
Not at all.
Get through that.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it was just them and it didn't have to come before us, but now understanding that
Right.
with the annexation and all of that, it just as you said,
It's a ministerial function, yeah, that they,
and then it's for their citizens to vote on.
absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair, board members.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Chandra. Hi there. Thank you for coming early and we did like have Jim go quick and so.
Sure, no worries. So a couple of things. So on your agendas, we have the briefing for the EMPG contract. That is our Emergency Management Performance Grant contract. That's an annual contract of federal money that we receive from DSHS FEMA. And it's our basic program funding. It's our keep the lights on money, as I like to say. So here we utilize it. It covers two FTEs, so two of our staff within DEM are completely grant funded by this money. And then we, depending on our allocation for the year, we also use it for special project M&O. We used a lot of it for our integrated communication, our translations, limited English proficiency, things like that. We also utilize it to support our training programs and all of the necessary pieces of what we do. So that's that piece of it. So are there any questions on that particular item? Nothing? Okay. And then I do have something, Gina said it was okay to cover it as well. So we have received the intergovernmental agreement from the health district for the $175,000 that they are transferring to us to support the asbestos testing. So you will be seeing that on your agenda on the 28th for approval and acceptance of those funds. Because it is coming from their solid waste tipping fees, they are asking us to make sure that it is used solely for asbestos testing and debris clearance. So that is what we are doing with it. And our primary preliminary use for it will be to provide reimbursements to the uninsured individuals who were able to pay out of pocket for their asbestos testing. So we'll do that first, and then any funding remaining from that $175,000 we will utilize for abatement and debris clearance. Any questions for Chandra? Okay, great. Thank you. Yes. Oh. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mike Burgess is on an airplane.
Okay. So you get to take this one.
So ledge agenda, Ron, can you pull up that one? Last week, you guys had pretty much come to consensus on a bunch of changes which were all made. And then Ron will have it up in a second. Item 6 of the first list on page 2, I had a majority of commissioners request similar change. So that's what you see up there in the strike changes, whatever you call that. And since it was outside kind of the consensus that was come to, thought I should come back for discussion just so it's all as it should be. So I just need to hear what language we like here.
Commissioner French.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I like the revisions that you've presented here. So I'm fine with the revised language. Thank you.
I like it. I think it looks good. Just reading through there, I think it flows well. And it includes Commissioner Jordan's second sentence there at the bottom, which I liked.
Mr. Jordan.
I think the second part is good. I appreciate your help in kind of cleaning that up. I would ask that we keep, it seems like we're coming back today simply to talk about the words to help address climate change, which is something that I recommended and suggested in there. I did highlight that in the language I sent around last time. I think that, as I indicated in the last meeting, it is, this is a legislative agenda to bring to Olympia, and we may have a difference of opinion about the Clean Buildings Act and whether that's a wise policy or not. But I think it's important to acknowledge climate change is the primary reason, and mitigating and dealing with climate change, that some of these laws out of Olympia were passed. And so I think it's just a way that the county can acknowledge the goal that the legislature has, so that when legislators, the majority of them, are reading this agenda, they understand that we know where they're coming from, but we're asking for relief and help and financial assistance to comply with some of these things. So I would ask that we acknowledge that piece. I think it's important that energy sources are affordable, reliable, and clean. And one of the benefits of clean is helping to reduce climate change. So I would ask that we keep that language and think it would be important to acknowledge. I just don't think it's necessary to strip that out.
So I think it did GSI's agenda have it in there? Was that part of the language?
I can't speak to that.
I remember.
Sure. They haven't got this year's out yet. I mean, I can go quickly grab last year's. I don't recall.
They do have it in theirs from last year.
I think the only thing that, as I thought about it, and again, after last meeting, that, I mean, we haven't taken a position on climate change as the county. So saying that Spokane County we support these things, but we haven't taken a position on actual climate change. And so I think that was kind of one of my thoughts with it. The state legislature is the one that's taking that position, we're not. And so that was as I started to think about it and read it, that was the issue that I was starting to have with it. So that's just my thoughts on that. Yeah, is climate change happening? Yes. Is it, what's all driving it? And I can tell you, as someone who has traveled to China a couple of times and seen little pucks of coal being dried on the side of the road so they can put it in their oven to heat their homes. We're not the only ones, it's a global issue. And so I think at Spokane County, we haven't taken a stance. And so that's where, after thinking about it, where I came from. Commissioner French?
If the term was used purely in a scientific way, it would be a lot easier to try and embrace. But because it is politicized and politicized to the point where under that banner, they make stupid decisions with regard to trying to impose a homogeneous approach to climate change on the west side to the east side. Until they want to depoliticize it, I would rather stay away from it and just stay to the science. And everything else in this statement is, I think, talking about economics and a move to clean energy sources. And so all of those, I think, are sound financial policies. And let Olympia deal with the politics of it. I just want to deal with the science. Thank you.
Well, I would also support keeping it to help address climate change, because it's a reality. I think we just need to state it. We shouldn't be afraid to state it. So anyway, but appreciate hearing everyone else's point of view.
So does that mean it's staying as edited?
I like the way it's written.
Yeah, I would keep it as edited.
I as well. Thank you.
So if that's the case, it can stay on the 2 p.m. consent. Unless somebody wants it pulled. I believe all the other changes are in line with last week's discussion.
I just have a question unrelated to that one. This is just a question I don't know the answer to, but I was looking at number 2 on the building codes for fire victims. My only question on that is, and I don't know the answer to this, are there ever any codes that relate to like fire safety in terms of rebuilding homes? That was I don't know. So with this language, if there was a code that said, use certain materials or certain spacing of buildings from trees, I just don't know if anything like that exists that might be worthwhile to consider on this point.
Okay. Commissioner French?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. To address Commissioner Jordan's question, there is 2 areas in the current codes that address fire. One, the International Fire Code, that predominantly deals with commercial buildings. The International Residential Code also deals with residential construction as well as fire. The state is looking at, and it's interesting, even in King County, King and I think Pierce County, but I know King County is looking to amend their codes to require fire-resistant exterior cladding materials like concrete siding boards, hardy planks, metal roofs. They are looking at reducing, which is causing some real political uproar in King County, reducing the amount of tree vegetation that you can have on a lot, and also readdressing the spacing between structures. So there is efforts in that area underway. I think it's in process. I don't think there's anything that's been adopted yet, but it's certainly a consideration. And I think we talked several months ago, right after the Gray and Oregon fire, about maybe providing through the building department recommendations for building more fire resistant structures that would include, hardy siding, hardy plank siding, which is a cement based product, metal roofs, and a number of other elements. We didn't pursue that, but I still think it's a worthwhile effort and would provide some assistance to people, especially in the rural area, as they're designing their replacement homes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That helps. And maybe we can just stay in conversation about that as the session goes forward.
Well, and I believe that Representative Schmidt and Representative Volz, who represent those 2 areas, are planning to have put legislation forward. So I don't know exactly what that legislation is looking like yet, but they are in the process of putting something forward for people with fire areas. Commissioner French?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we just met on that proposed legislation last week, and fully expect, I think the filing week is like the 2nd week in December, and it's their goal to have that legislation presented prior to that point. So that is something that's in the works. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also wanted to see if you guys are ready to pick a date to go over the legislative agenda with our area legislators. Last year, we did it on Monday, December 19th. So that was the first Monday essentially of the recess, that there was another meeting scheduled. The year prior, we did it on Friday, December 17th. So that was the end of the week of the last Monday, Tuesday meetings. Between the Monday and the Friday, we actually had 10 attendees each year, 9 legislators and 1 legislative assistant. So we've had pretty good attendance. The sooner we can try to get on people's calendars, I think the better.
Commissioner French?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to suggest that we do, if we're going to do this, that we do it after the 15th, because as I understand it, the cutoff for submitting legislation prior to the session starting is going to be somewhere in that second week. I think for some reason, 15th sticks in my mind. But if there is legislation that we have a particular interest in supporting, it'd be just to know that it has been filed and on the record before we met with the legislators. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a date in which you can begin to pre-file bills, and so it would be nice if Representative Schmidt and Vols have introduced their, then we'd have that bill number by that time, then we can advocate on the specific bill number, not just the concept of bill. But I'm not 100% sure what that date is that they can pre-file.
I know that a couple of commissioners are gonna be on vacation that week because that was the week we were taking off. So the week before Christmas and the week of between Christmas and New Year's is, we have scheduled to be on break. And so some of us have chosen to take those times off. So I don't know. You know, like, I mean, I would say like the 11th or 12th, you know, which
That's what I was gonna
we have our
suggest.
briefings going on, but they would know, I mean, they would pretty much have legislation if they're gonna bring it in, they would know it by then. So,
That doesn't prohibit them from introducing in January, right? Or is that it? You
Oh, no,
can't introduce-
they have indicated they will be pre-filing their bill.
No, I just mean any
Commissioner-
other types
Oh,
of
no, yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
Somebody can introduce it in February if
Yeah,
they want.
right, right.
No, there's no there's no
I was just
date you
thinking of
can't, but you can't start
the land
until-
swap one, you know, will probably be a discussion. I know Senator Short was involved with that one last time, so anyway.
And I do notice the GSI Ledge Forum is on December 13th, so I don't know if, does it make sense to do it before that or after that? I don't know if that plays in, but
That's an afternoon event.
that's something that brings a lot of people from the region, you know, brings all our area legislators together for an event, you know, I don't know, just strategically, do we meet with them prior to them doing that or after? I don't know, just
might be good prior,
Just
just because
mention it.
then we can have talked through it and they may, you know, hear from other people or not. So I would say,
It's been an hour block the last couple of years, and I'd say it's wrapped up. The last 5-10 minutes have just been chit chat.
I'm trying to remember, do we usually get more legislators on Zoom or in person?
21, I think, was exclusively Zoom.
Okay.
It was still more COVID-y.
Yeah.
Last year, I believe we had Vols and Schmidt in person. Were they the only two?
Yeah.
I remember most were on the screen. I would expect maybe it'd be a little more 50-50 this year. Of course, Zoom makes it easy for everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Do we wanna ask for it to be strictly Zoom? Making it easy, nobody has to travel, nobody has to drive down, would we get better attendance from all the legislators if it's like, this is a virtual event? Do it from your office, do it from your home, do it from your cell phone, just be on the call. Kind of thing. What's that?
And mute yourself.
Yeah, oh, well, when they don't mute, that's when the fun stuff happens. That's a good one.
You know, that might not be a bad idea to get more participation. Anyway,
Like the 7th and the 9th, which of course less focused on Spokane or split focus. They're probably only gonna attend by Zoom unless they happen to be in town.
I mean, I don't have a problem either way, and maybe just do it like first thing, like 9 o'clock on Monday.
So looking at Monday, the 11th, is that something that works?
Which is December.
December,
I'll be
yes.
out of town.
Right, you're gone.
are you back on the 12th? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'll leave that week.
I'm out that week.
Because the week before is pretty busy, but we gotta get the budget done.
What about like the Friday before you out too?
No,
Okay.
I'll be here.
I don't know, sometimes Fridays are,
Friday the 8th.
sometimes they're more open.
Commissioner French, are you available on Friday the 8th?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
I have a WSU advisory council that goes till 10, but I could jump out early.
I have any PDA that starts at 10:30, so I'd be available before.
What about 1 o'clock?
I think
Friday afternoons.
I think we're gonna struggle for the
priority.
legislators to be on at that time.
I go back to Thursday before Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon's not good to get the legislators on.
Okay, what about Thursday morning, the 7th? For the health district meeting in the afternoon.
I'm free that whole morning.
I can make it work.
Thursday morning, Commissioner French, on the 7th?
I chair Clean Air, and that goes from 9:30 till 10:30. So if it's after that or before that, I can do it. During that, I've got Clean Air that I got chair.
So, I mean, we're not gonna get much for legislators, so if we did like 11 to
12?
11 to 12,
On what day?
the 7th. And it's before the 12:30 health district meeting.
Walk over to the district after.
Why don't we shoot for that? Thursday the 7th at 11.
So is that something you guys want to think about a bit more, or do we go ahead and send out a save the date?
I'm good.
Commissioner French?
Yeah, so is this going to be an all Zoom meeting, or are you going to entertain people to be in person? If we're going to entertain in person, maybe we do from 11:30 to 12:30 and provide lunch. That's a great way to get a legislator there, is provide a free meal.
That's what I was thinking, free lunch.
So Commissioner Currency just talked about having it all Zoom,
It doesn't
so,
matter. I mean, I'm gonna be down here for that,
Yeah.
and for health board, so whatever. I was just thinking you might get more saying Zoom, but yeah, I don't know.
But lunch might be a time when.
Food might bring people in too.
And they can always zoom in if they, but maybe we should do, since Board of Health starts at 12:30, keep it at 11, right?
you should be taking numbers.
We're expanding the board, we can't
We
make
could
that
go to like
decision yet.
a little afternoon if we needed to, yeah.
So the only issue was 12:30, we all have three of us have the health board meeting, that starts, so. If we started at 11 to, if we go 11 to 12:30 with lunch, then that seems like a long time for legislators.
The last 2 years has been a 1 hour block.
Well, and if you go beyond noon, can't you provide free alcohol too?
Wishful thinking. I don't know if you reach out to a couple of legislators to see what's, if there's any committee meetings or anything that are happening.
I haven't looked up to know when committee week is. Do you happen to know, Josh?
It's
Is it
usually not.
after Thanksgiving?
Usually it's November.
I thought it was in oh, man.
I was,
Ron, do
I
you
didn't
remember
realize
committee
Burgess
days?
wasn't gonna be here. and so I didn't-
It's November, it's not December, right?
Usually right before Thanksgiving.
I think committee days is in November. I don't think it is in December.
I'll give the legislator a call.
Well, so let's shoot for 11 to 12:30
So we'll shoot for 11,
and provide lunch.
you wanna say to 12:30 with lunch? You wanna go 11 through the 12:30 with lunch? Do you think that's better than a 90-minute request of time?
11:15.
11:15 to 12:15?
I mean, just because we've got to be down there because we've got to pass the budget.
So 11:15 to 12:15? Lunch for those in person? Sure.
There you go.
So you'll need RSVPs.
So we've always got the RSVPs.
And then if we
Who's
need
handling
to,
lunch?
we need to switch to Friday, then what's the time on Friday? If that doesn't work.
Friday had to be in the afternoon.
I don't think you wanna do a Friday afternoon. You're just not gonna get anybody.
You could look at the Wednesday if you need to switch.
Wednesday the 6th.
Is that one wide open?
Move stuff around, but. Otherwise, what about Monday the 4th in the afternoon?
That's free.
December 4th. I've got a doctor appointment that day.
I'm gonna visit Spokane on that 3rd.
Well, let's shoot for Thursday the 7th.
What is the county's food policy?
You would have to ask Vicky's office. We may have to go till 12:30. I think it's gotta be over the lunch hour kind of thing. And
These are,
then
there's usually some sort of,
you gotta fill out a form that who's attending.
Vicky's office will. Perfect, that's all I got.
Okay, so can you have all the assistants are here. Brenda's not, but she's listening, to put that on the calendar for everybody. So, I don't know, Jeff, if you wanna,
11:15 to noon 15?
if you wanna send out, just so it's one calendar invite from one person.
I can do it, I can do calendar invite.
Okay. So it gets on the calendar. Okay.
Do that right now.
Any miscellaneous items?
I wanted to ask, so, after the ledge agenda is adopted, do we wanna ask Jessica or Pat to kinda spruce it up a little?
That's
to
already
make it-
scheduled.
Oh,
That's happening.
oh,
It'll be prettier.
okay, perfect, that's all I was gonna ask. Sounds good.
Very good. Commissioner French?
Yeah, Madam Chair, did you ask for miscellaneous items?
Yes.
Okay, I've got two, just kind, these are, for informational purposes only, but one might, end up coming back to us for an action. I'm dealing with two, manufacturers that, are looking to come to Spokane County. One's an international, manufacturer looking for 40 acres. And so I've got a couple sites that we're working on for them and stuff. But the other one is a company out of the Midwest that builds solar farms. And so I'm working with them to find a location for a solar farm here in the county, and also working with the Vista to coordinate that effort and stuff. The challenge, and this is more of a heads up, is that we don't have any specific language in our zoning ordinance that deals with solar farms. And so I have talked to Mr. Chesney, and he is looking at this to see what might have to happen with regard to a text amendment to allow for solar farm, assuming that the board wanted to pursue that. And I'm not sure why we wouldn't, but just wanted to give you a heads up that that might be coming down the pike. And if you hear anything about it on the street, just know that I'm dealing with the company that's looking to site the facility. Thank you.
Okay, so my questions, I just would have a lot of questions. There are some counties that are not doing solar farms just because it's taking up so much space in those counties. And so it'd just be where it would be, how much space, what's the other opportunities from that property. There's also some counties that are, as solar farms are coming in, buying up farmland, they're also buying their water rights. So just things to be aware of what solar farms are looking at doing. So those are just some of the. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And those are questions, concerns that I've already raised with the manufacturer with regard to one. I'm not going to be supportive of taking active ag land out of the equation. We do have quite a bit of scab land that is not farmable, and so that might suit. But there are a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered, and I'm going through that process with them. And that was the reason why I wanted to just give you a heads up, so that there might be an opportunity for us to educate ourselves in terms of some of the challenges other counties have had, and making sure that we don't kind of revisit some of their challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other miscellaneous items?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I heard that I don't know if it was the joint or just the House Higher Ed Committee was in town yesterday to tour a bunch of educational, I think they're at the community college, and they visited with Launch Northwest, and I heard from a couple folks that they were quite impressed with the Launch Northwest program. So great to have some legislators here seeing what we're doing in Spokane, and hopefully continuing to help support our different higher education needs. So, yeah.
Not saying anything else, then are there any other executive sessions?
Two.
So the first one is going to be potential litigation pursuant to RCW 4231.10(1)I. That will include the board, myself, CO Scott Simmons, as well as Planning Director Scott Chesney and Jessica Pilgrim from my office. And that should last approximately 30 minutes and no action from the board.
The second item is under labor negotiations, RCW 4230.144. In addition to the board, myself and Chris Anderson will be Ashley Cameron and Josh Grote and Randy Bischoff. That will be approximately 20 minutes, also no action.
So
Matt, you're gonna click what the liquid one.
Matt Zarakora for the second one as well.
Okay, Matt is available.
Ashley, Josh, Matt. Commissioner French?
Yeah, and I have one executive session update, deals with the potential lease or purchase of real estate, and mine won't take more than a minute.
And who will be in that session?
All the board management staff, Chris Anderson.
Okay, and do you anticipate any action?
No.
Okay, very good. So then we're gonna go into executive session for 30, 40, 50, 51 minutes. It is 11:06, so we will be in till 12:02, I believe. Is that right? So no action is anticipated, so at the end of the executive sessions, those three that have been discussed, we will conclude our meeting for the morning, and we'll see everyone back for our 2 o'clock. So thank you all very much, and we will see you back at 2 o'clock.